What's up, guys? Welcome to today's video. Now today we're back with the 4th gen. We're actually going to start cleaning up some of the engine bay under here, but first things first, we've actually got a coolant leak in this thing. And I know what you guys are thinking. What could be possibly leaking coolant under this truck? It's not something from the factory, actually. It's actually kind of a lack of parts that we got leaking coolant from, if that makes sense. Or better yet, I'll just show you guys. That right there is our EGR delete. Now, this truck came already with an EGR delete on it, so it was nothing we did. But now that the delete's there, it's actually leaking right here. So this part right here, where this blue part that's metal meets up to this black part, there's an O-ring inside of there, and that's actually what's leaking on this truck. Now, this black part is original. This is what would have went into your EGR. And the blue part is actually the delete kit, or the delete kit that goes into the head over there. Now, after doing a little bit of research, I found that leaking from this spot is actually really common on these trucks. No matter what 6, 7 it is, it seems like they always leak at these O-rings. Now, there's a couple different reasons why this is. Partly, I think most, though, is right here, this bracket that actually holds the O-ring into this factory pipe is only held on by one stud to the exhaust manifold. And with as much vibrations as one of these engines that you guys would know makes, you're going to have some movement going on there. Now, really, the more you look into this mod, it's kind of unnecessary and it's kind of controversial at the same time. Let me explain. Now, that pipe, like I said, went originally to the EGR, but below that pipe it goes down to our lower thermostat, or not our thermostat, it'd be the coolant housing, to the lower radiator hose, you know, the cast metal part. There's a nipple that comes off of that, goes onto the black pipe, goes up, and then about halfway up, or about 3/4 of the way up, it actually will tee off, go under our exhaust manifold into our heater core and our water-cooled turbo, which is the factory turbo. Now, this truck's not going to get a new turbo anytime soon, hopefully. It actually had one. We kind of bought it with a new turbo, so hopefully this turbo's got a lot of life left on it for us. So what we're going to be doing is keeping that water jacket, but at the same time, I really hate how the pipe looks as it comes up. It looks pretty ugly. It's another place to leak, and you really don't need it. Now, a lot of people say you do need it for extra cooling, but the cooling, or the way the coolant flows, is out of the head. So really, it's not taking any more coolant to your head. And also, there's a couple other things you can do to increase your cooling to the back of this engine if you need to, that we might do in the future. Okay, so the way we're going to be addressing this, or the easy way, would be to just put another O-ring in there and call it a day. But like I said, guys, we really don't like the way it looks just because it's kind of unnecessary now. So what we're going to actually do is pull this pipe out all together, which is only about 2 feet long. We're going to actually cut it and have it welded so it stops under the exhaust manifold, and then we're going to put another cap or plug in the head over here. Now, with that done, you'll never have to worry about a leak ever again. That's one less place to leak on this engine. Also, it's going to look a heck of a lot cleaner, and as well as when we go to a 2nd gen manifold swap, which I'd like to do eventually, it's going to be already out of the way. So we got most of the antifreeze out of this thing. There's still a little bit draining out. And we also got the crankcase vent tube out of the way for now, which we'll be doing something with later on. So now with the antifreeze down, all we got to do is start taking this tube apart right here and disassembling our old EGR passageway coolant tube. Alright, so now we're ready to move on to start taking stuff off this accessory bracket, which, like I said, is only mounted on by one stud over there, so that's kind of part of the reason why I think this is leaking. First, we're going to take off the transmission dipstick tube, and then we're going to loosen it probably. We're actually going to loosen this sensor over here, which is actually, I think, for back pressure readings, I believe. And then after that, we can break it loose there and actually pull this blue fitting out of our factory OEM black pipe and start from there. once we got everything loose up top, you can't really see me, but I'm actually under the truck. I'm filming from up top though. We're going to go for that tube which goes into that bottom outlet. It's right near the oil filter. We didn't take the air intake off, even though that might make it a little easier. Honestly, I think taking the wheel well liner out, you'd have a direct hit to it, but we should be able to get it out from just underneath because it appears to only be one bolt. And once we get that out, it's an O-ring. We should be able to pop it out and then pull it up from the top. We finally got this pipe here. This is the up pipe, or the stand pipe I was telling you about for the coolant. So the way this goes in there is this goes down here to that bottom outlet like I was talking about, right about where the lower radiator hose goes in. So coolant's coming out of the block, or out of the head, down this tube. So coolant's actually flowing this way. So it goes down this, but at first it starts up here, and it starts at the EGR cooler. It flows out of the EGR cooler, comes down this. Also coolant is flowing out of the heater core and the turbo, because you know these 6.7s have water-cooled turbos from the factory, out of that T here, and then down back into the system. So we want to keep this because we still have our water-cooled turbo and we still like our heat in our cab. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to cut it as close as we can and then get it to be welded, and then this will sit below the exhaust manifold. It'll look clean, it'll never leak. And speaking of leaking, this is the delete kit. This is a part of the delete kit, this blue right here. And we pulled this off, and as you can see, that O-ring is just completely trashed and it looks horrible. Also, this is the side that goes to the tube, and you can see right there we've got some damage from who knows what that was caused by. Now, we will be losing our vent or a bleed off for when we're filling it back up with coolant. But with these engines, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, the 5.9s didn't have it, so you just kind of bleed it the old-fashioned way, squeezing the tube, you know. And also, I believe the thermostats in these trucks have a pin or a pin-style system that's kind of supposed to be self-bleeding anyway. So really, you don't need this anyway. It's ugly, it's in the way, so it's going to be gone. It's going to look a lot more cleaner, and you're going to get rid of the potential leak spots that supposedly are really common on these engines with these delete kits. Okay guys, so now that we got that out of the way, for now it's getting kind of late on us, so we need to get this thing pushed back outside, and to do that we're going to have to start it. So what we want to do is go ahead and take our 1-inch wrench and take that fitting out of the head and put a plug. I have a plug that we're going to put in there temporarily. It's not stainless. I have some stainless ones on the way that I'll put in, but for now I got a plug to put in there just to keep it from shooting coolant maybe up onto the whole engine when we crank it to move it out. Welcome back, guys. It's actually a couple days since we last left off in the last clip. We had to go and get that pipe welded like I told you about. We also had to round up a few parts, but as you can see behind me, we're going back at it with this thing and we're getting her back together. Here are those parts I was telling you about we had to round up. Now right here we have the O-ring that goes to the pipe that goes to the turbo and the heater core, which is actually a Cummins part, which is surprising, which you'd think this would be kind of more unique to the Ram side of things. And then over here, this is our O-ring that goes from the engine to the standpipe up to the turbo, or not the turbo, but the EGR, what would have been the EGR and everything else. Which this one actually looks to be just a Ram part, which both these came from the dealership. Whereas you think this one would be a Cummins part as well, but who knows. Also, we have our plugs right here, guys. Now, you saw us put that one plug in, which we went ahead and took out. This is a steel plug. As you can see, it's pretty magnetized. And then this one over here are stainless plugs. Now, we got these actually off eBay, and these are really nice. I mean, you can tell, really, these are some high-quality stainless. It doesn't stick at all to our magnet. And now, I bet you're asking, why did we get 3 of them? And there's actually 3 plugs in there that are kind of nasty looking. I think they're actually kind of the same steel material. So while we're in there, we're going to go ahead and swap those out and get us some nice stainless in there and make that thing look really nice while we're already in it. So that's all our parts that we had to buy. And here's the part numbers for these O-rings right here and here. But some things you just can't buy, and that's going to be this right here, guys. Now this is our pipe. This is the final product. As you can see right here, it's been cut and welded and painted. I mean, it looks good. You can see through the paint, those welds look really amazing, guys. We had a guy that welds get this done for us. So really, you know, nothing too fancy, but he did an awesome job. And down here you can see we painted everything as well. So all of this thing needs now is those O-rings to be put on, and we can reinstall it into the truck and see how it fits up. Now if you guys are new to the channel, or if you guys actually watched some of the past videos, which you should have, you would know that we like Vaseline, and sometimes those uses might not be appropriate or correct, and I'm talking about engine stuff, by the way, here, nothing else. I mean, if you guys think anything else, you have a dirty mind. But what we're going to be using it for today, which is 100% correct, I promise I'm not joking with you guys this time, is we're going to be putting a little bit on our O-rings for the pipe just to make them go in a little bit better. Okay guys, some not so good news. So you saw we greased up the O-rings, put them on there, and with that said, we're having a lot of movement at the top of the pipe, and that's with the bottom part bolted on. And as you see, the bottom part of that pipe is not welded, or the flange of the bottom part of that pipe is not welded, so it's still got movement, or it's still got room to move, which was fine from the factory because you had that support up top holding it. But now that we cut that off and that's gone now, we need a new support. So what we're probably going to do is I'm going to see about taking it back off and having a stud or a bolt welded onto the top part of it. And I've already got a good place where I think it'll mount, and just cut a piece of metal for our bracket, and that should solve our problem. Now the good news is we still have our plugs in, so we can get our plugs in this thing and you could kind of get everything else ready to go. Okay guys, so we got those plugs in, those stainless steel ones. They're looking great. It's a definite upgrade over the steel ones we had in there. So here's that bracket we trimmed up, and right there behind it are the two pieces that we cut off from it. So now what we have left is our mount for our dipstick for the trans, and also we're going to have a hole here that we're probably going to be mounting a bracket, or using the bracket we already have for our CCV, which we'll get to later. And then also right here on the side, or on the very end, that elongated hole is for our I think that's the back pressure line off the OEM header. Not sure, but that's what that one goes to. So let's go ahead and put this thing on because it's ready. Okay guys, that's the final result for that bracket. You can see it looks a lot more cleaner than it was before. So now we just got to get the bracket made for our up pipe or standpipe for the coolant. And as you can see right there, we have a stud for the exhaust manifold directly in the background right there. Well, it's too dark to show you, but what we're going to do is we're going to make one to mount off that to our bracket and weld it on. As you can see, we've lost daylight. It's pretty dark out, and the pipe's back out. And the reason is once we made the bracket, we found out we don't have enough room to actually get to it to bolt it on when the pipe's in. So with that said, guys, we're gonna have to go back to the drawing board on this one, and we're gonna have to just look at our options as far as where to mount that bracket and how to get it to that pipe to hold it. But you know, I've got a lot of content on the memory card. The memory card is almost full, so I think it's time to make a video on this. So you guys make sure to go down, comment, and like, and make sure to subscribe, because on the next video, we're going to have a resolution to this problem. We're going to have this thing running, and it's going to be done, and you'll know how to do this for yourselves and what not to do. So with that said, guys, I'll see you.